Hello, you guys. So I am back with another video, and this is part 3 of my dismantling delusions. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how the mixed race identity is often invalidated, and I'm also going to be talking about how mixed race people often endure bullying from either or side. So that would be their black side and white side, their Asian and black side, their European and Arab side. Like, mixed race comes in so many different blends. So when I'm saying mixed race, I'm just talking about individuals that have 2 or more races that are in their DNA, and it's prominent when it comes to their features too. But I do want to add a short disclaimer. There is a form of bullying that happens to mixed race people that don't quote unquote look fully mixed race. That's also a form of hierarchy, actually, in a lot of mixed race groups. So if a person is 50-50 biracial, but they look quote unquote just black, that's actually a form of social hierarchy, and that's actually a form of hierarchy within the mixed race group as well. So that's actually a form of discrimination, which is so hilarious because it's like, even in small subsets of groups, they still have forms of discrimination. It's like there's no running from discrimination. No matter what group you're in, there's no running from it, unfortunately. So that's also a dynamic that I've noticed, where a biracial person could be darker skinned and they're going to be, bullied out of their identity. But I told you guys when I did the video based on the skulls, there's data that shows that even if you are darker skinned, right, you still have a different skull shape, because your entire skull starts to change when you have 20% or more other admixture outside of African, or whatever your mixture is. Your literal skull shape starts to change when you're mixed race. So that's not even based on the truth. That's just a shaming tactic that people try to utilize and say, well, you just look black to me. But that's actually, I know it's like a shaming tactic, but it's not based on the truth, right? So somebody could use that as a diss to be funny, like ha ha ha. But when we're talking about reality and statistics and the actual data, that's not true. So I'm going to be talking about all these different dynamics. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so starting off strong, we're going to be talking about the overcompensation and performance of blackness, right? So many mixed race women, especially those who are light skinned, and this honestly applies to some men too, they may feel compelled to prove their blackness. This honestly comes from adopting exaggerated urban mannerisms, right? Dialect or fashion to counter claims that they're not black enough. So performing cultural cues more forcefully in black spaces to seek validation. Or this behavior stems from a lack of full acceptance by both white and black communities, leading to identity insecurity and overcompensation. So there's actually a psychological study on this. So this is a response to identity invalidation. So this is a real behavior. So social identity theory explains how individuals seek positive identity reinforcement from groups they feel a part of. If that belonging is denied or questioned, compensatory behavior, often follows. So basically, this is just saying that somebody that is consistently invalidated when it comes to their white identity and their black identity, they are forced to exaggerate or overcompensate for these behaviors. So like, I know a ton of mixed race people, right, that will just adopt the quote unquote urban aesthetic. So it almost becomes like a caricature of being ghetto. And honestly, that's not going to do too much of nothing. And I could tell you firsthand that when you try to act like something that you're not, people from those areas are going to be able to scope you out faster than anything else. And this is actually why I talked about that, especially as a woman that was always predominantly homeschooled and I've lived in the suburbs. This has always been, one of my experiences where they're just like, oh, you don't act like that. Why are you trying to act ghetto? Why are you trying to act like you're from the hood? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, these are real dynamics that happen if you talk a certain way. Like and this is the funniest part about it. There are actually people that are educated in the hood that talk proper, but because of stereotypes, people would assume that somebody from the hood has to talk in a specific type of urban dialect, and they have to talk slang, and they have to act a certain type of way. But it's just crazy how like stereotypes run everyone's mind in general. So that's why I do point out stereotypes more times than not. So the next thing that I'm going to be pointing out is mixed race as a distinct identity. So mixed race people are often forced into binary categories such as black or white when their experience is neither. So these are going to be some of the key points that I'm going to be bringing up. So whenever we're talking about the mixed identity, right, it comes with unique cultural, emotional, and psychological negotiations. There's often no default cultural home. And so honestly, a lot of mixed race people, they may feel foreign in both family settings and friend groups. So for many, ethnic ambiguity becomes both a burden and an advantage, leading to misidentification such as East African or Dominican or Arab or Filipino or other groups based on features or skin tone. So when you're mixed race, people will try to identify you with different things that you're not, or they'll just try to throw you into whiteness if they feel like you're more quote unquote white passing. That's where the term comes from. Or they'll try to throw you into just blackness because they're going to claim that you only have black features. But again, I told you guys that's not based on the truth. When we're looking at the skull shapes of mixed race people, they have totally different skull shapes because it becomes a combination of two different types of skulls. So that's not even based on, biology alone. So people that say that, they're just lying in general. All right. So the next thing that I want to bring up is intra-racial tension with dark-skinned women. So colorism plays a significant role here. So some dark-skinned women may express resentment or hostility towards light-skinned or mixed-race women, often a result of societal conditioning that elevates lighter skin. Mixed-race women may be bullied or excluded under the assumption that they are privileged or not black enough. These tensions are not rooted in individual malice, but stem from shared trauma in a colorist, white supremacist society that pits black women against each other. So the socio-cultural impact of this is that the dynamic can create a lifetime of distrust or discomfort between women of different skin tones within the same racial umbrella, complicating solidarity. And again, this is something that I've noticed. Whenever someone is mixed race, in general, people keep trying to categorize them as just black. And that's not how that goes. Some people will try to argue and they'll be like, well, mixed race isn't an identity. That's not a thing. Well, it actually is a thing because according to science, you have a totally different skull shape. So honestly, it is a thing. But honestly, when people try to argue that point, it doesn't make any logical sense because being mixed on its own is a totally different dynamic than being fully of anything. And then another person will like to argue, well, nobody is fully 100% anything. Yeah, but if 8% is you being mixed, you're highly mistaken because you're not. So anyway, right? So whenever we're talking about mixed race women and light skinned women that get bullied by darker skinned women, again, this is why I understand social dynamics, but it doesn't make it right? This is why education is important, because when people are educated, they should know better so they're able to do better. When a person isn't educated, they're just assuming that a person is getting everything handed to them based on, stereotypes, based on what they believe the world is and things like that. Because it's like, again, I showed you in one dynamic that you can be mixed race, but not get any privilege based on how you look, because featureism is a huge impact actually when it comes to lighter skinned women and mixed race women in general. And any lighter skinned woman or mixed race woman will tell you that a lot of them suffer from not benefiting when it comes to their features. Your facial features do have a huge impact on how you're treated by different groups of people in general. So, I think that this conversation needs to be had, number one, off of the internet, because there's a lot of people watching when these conversations are had. And then number two, it's like, I do not think that it's right for dark-skinned women to bully lighter-skinned women. I don't care what you've been through, right? That's like me, how you guys get mad at me and you're just like, oh my God, you got on the internet and you started saying people are average and unattractive and blah, 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 blah. All right. So use me as an example. You don't want to be like me. So if you're a dark skinned person, don't judge somebody based on their skin color. You see how I'm a fucking menace? I'm just diabolical at this point because all my points stick no matter what. All right. So I want to bring up the mental health effects and statistics, right? So when it comes to mixed race individuals, they report higher rates of psychological distress compared to monoracial groups. So there's actually statistics on this. A study published in the American Journal of Psychiatry, it found that mixed race adolescents report significantly higher rates of depression and anxiety. According to the American Psychological Association, multiracial youth are at higher risk of identity confusion, substance abuse, and bullying. Many report feeling like they can't be their full selves anywhere, creating chronic feelings of alienation and anxiety. And I have to get on white people real quick, right? Because whenever a mixed race person is white and black, I've noticed a lot of white people, they will push mixed race people into only blackness. And I feel like there is actually a reason behind that. And I'm going to say my reason right now. I feel like when it comes to white people pushing their multiracial or biracial children into only blackness is because they don't want them to be able to benefit from full white capital. Because whenever you're multiracial, right, you have multiracial or biracial, you have the ability to benefit from white privilege depending on how ambiguous you are, because you have proximity to whiteness. So I've noticed that this is a strategic tactic that a lot of white people will do in general, or people of other races will do in general when their child is mixed with black. They'll just push their child into blackness and say, oh, you're only black, so you belong with the black community. You need to identify with your black side, black, 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 black. But yet they don't want their child to embrace their Asian side. They don't want their child to embrace their white culture. They don't want their child to embrace anything that has to do with anything that's non-black, right? So it's kind of ironic how like these dynamics on both ends do the same thing. And then when you look at the black side of the family is like, well, you're not black enough because you are more pale, or you get privilege based on your features, or your hair texture is like this, so you don't look like a fully black person, or your skin color is like this, so you don't get these dynamics of a black person. So it's like this tug and pull type of situation where honestly, I feel like they should be able to identify with both races comfortably without being questioned. That is the fucking problem, right? Because this is what's bringing all the problems. When somebody is telling you, you only have to identify with this and there's no other thing outside of just this because you need to identify with this. Don't listen to no fucking idiot like that. I don't listen to idiots that don't base their logic off of science. I don't listen to idiots that don't base their logic off of biology. I'm not listening to a dumbass that's saying, oh, you have to identify with this because this is what I told you. Bitch, I don't give a fuck what you told niggas. Nobody gives a fuck what you're saying, actually. So that's what I would do if I was biracial specifically. I honestly wouldn't give a fuck. So I don't see why, some biracial people are afraid to identify with both blackness and whiteness. I don't see why somebody would be afraid to identify that way, because that's a part of who you are. You're both part white and part black, or part black and part Asian, or part black and part Arab. Whatever your mix is, you're that. Even if you're multiple things, you're triracial, multiracial, whatever. If you're three things, you can claim those three things. But because of these dynamics, I realized that it's not necessarily that people don't understand the concept of mixed race. It's that they don't want mixed race people to benefit from multiple privileges that they're able to benefit from. Because if a person has multiple groups of ethnic backgrounds or ethnicities or races in their DNA, then they're able to identify with more than just one thing. They don't have to just identify with one thing being, oh, this is the majority thing in your DNA, so you are forced to identify with this. No, you're not, actually, because that's not what the DNA says. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, honestly, if we're going based off of science and data. So people that try to do that, they don't make any logical sense more times than not. And I wouldn't listen to a person like that. So the next thing on the list, we have family rejection or categorization. So mixed race people often, they report that their white family members are overtly trying to whiten them, or downplaying their black identity, or treating it as an inconvenient truth, right? And then on the other end, you have the black family members emphasizing their lightness, or treating them as outsiders, especially if they aren't culturally immersed. So they're often seen as too white for the black folks or too black for the white folks. This leads to identity fragmentation and the burden of code switching constantly depending on the setting. And this kind of goes back into like dynamics of, even if we use something as simple as like a suburban black people, they know all about code switching. So if you take a suburban black person and you put them in the hood, they know that they have to move totally different in the hood because they're not going to be accepted when it comes to certain things and behaviors that they do in the suburbs. So it's the same type of concept. You take somebody that is mixed race and you put them in a predominantly all white area, they know how to code switch in that area. If you take them and put them in a predominantly all black area, they know they have to code switch and protect themselves and do certain things in that area. So it's kind of like the same type of concept, if you will, right? So the next thing that I want to bring up is the racial misidentification. So due to their appearance, mixed race individuals are frequently assumed to be East African. They are assumed to be Hispanic or Latinx. They are also assumed to be South Asian or Pacific Islander. They're also assumed to be Arab or Middle Eastern, right? So this creates added pressure. They are forced to explain or justify their identity or accept being misread. So that type of experience on its own is going to make somebody feel like they're being invalidated. And it's disorienting because it's like, if you know that this is what you identify with, because this is what you've always identified with, but there's people on the outside that are just assuming your identity like it's fucking Jeopardy or some shit, it's gonna be so fucking weird, because it's like, these people are just thinking this is hilarious, but this is actually affecting how you have to operate in the world. And this is a problem. It really is, because it's like, mixed race people should be able to classify and identify as mixed race, because that is a totally different experience than just blackness, right? Monoracial black people have a totally different experience than mixed race people. And I've noticed that a lot of times, because you have self-hating black people, they don't want to just identify as monoracial. They want to interlope in mixed race identity in mixed race spaces, but that's not how that works, because you don't have the same skull shape as a mixed race person. And yes, I took it there because this is based on anthropology. So speaking of that, this brings me to my next point. So African Americans and the everyone is mixed myth, right? So I'm going to be bringing up this. This one really fucking grinds my gears. And I don't know what it is about this specific one that does. But it's like, you have certain African Americans that truly hate being black. They hate everything that's associated with blackness in general, that they are trying to hold on to this fucking imaginary statistic that is not based on data. When you actually look at the data for real and you actually break down the data piece by piece by piece, whenever somebody has chattel slavery admixture, it's only coming back, according to data, as 8% or lower, right? That's most African Americans in America. I don't know who the fuck said that most African Americans on average has 25% admixture of European. That is not based on the truth. That is based on an outlier. Those are based on MGM people, which means multi-generationally mixed people, right? Multi-generationally mixed people are people like the Creoles, people that are, having a history of biracials marrying biracials. That's why they have higher levels of admixture. And then they were forced to identify as only black. That doesn't mean that this is based on the truth, right? Just because somebody is forced to identify as only black because of the one drop rule, it doesn't mean that this is based on history of African Americans when it strictly comes off of chattel slavery, that they have high levels of admixture. That's not true at all. So it's often claimed that everyone is mixed, particularly among African Americans due to slavery, but most African Americans are not genetically mixed in the way that biracial people are. So there's actually DNA studies that show that the average African American to be specific, only has about 8 to 6% European, especially if they have darker skin tones. And this is why I think a lot of people don't like to talk about this, right? And, this often comes from slavery and coercion. So whenever somebody has higher levels of admixture than that, that's not coming from chattel slavery directly, just alone, right? So being part white genetically does not equate to a mixed race identity as well. And I feel like this needs to be brought up, because it doesn't. Just because you have something in your DNA doesn't mean that's a part of your experience as well. So it's like, even if you are MGM, if that's not your experience and you don't have a parent that is fully white, you're not going to understand how a biracial person feels with having a parent of a whole entire different race. Like, that's not even based on logic at that point. And honestly, some people that do that, they piss me off, right? They're just stupid. So invalidating mixed race identity by lumping it under blackness is a form of erasure, because they have their own fucking identity. They have their own fucking experiences. Being biracial is not just genetic, it's social, familial, and psychological. And again, this goes back to the skull shapes. It's like whenever people are mixed race, when they're 20% or more, it's like their literal skull dynamic changes. So calling biracial people just black is not going to change anthropology, and it's not going to change genetics, and it's not going to change science just because you want everybody to be black underneath the one drop rule. All right. So the next point that I want to bring up is modern interactions. So in today's social climate, mixed race people are often tokenized or viewed as the best of both worlds, which reduces them to aesthetic hybrids. They're expected to speak for black issues without always being fully accepted in Black spaces. Online, mixed women are hyper visible but still subject to harsh critique from both sides, especially around authenticity and loyalty. So again, this goes back to these quote unquote Black issues. Biracial people definitely can speak on Black issues because they're part Black or whatever their mix is, right? They can speak on both of those things because that's what they are. And this is what my problem is. It's like whenever these people are mixed race, their family from the other side purposely, and I feel like it's purposely done, they try to push them into only Blackness, only Blackness. This isn't to say that biracial people aren't part Black, right? Because they are. So they have every God-given right to identify with that if they want to. But the problem that I'm having is white people are not accepting them to be able to have the privileges that they are entitled to. And that's nothing other than social hierarchy gatekeeping, because a lot of people, you know, this is why they push this racist rhetoric and they're just like, never mix, because they do understand social dynamics. And if you are mixed with something, you are entitled to have access to those same things because you have this in your DNA. It doesn't matter what a person is saying. You actually have this in your DNA, and it's changing the entire phenotype and prototype of your structure, your bone, your fucking face, your features. So this is why you have some weirdos that get on the internet and they're just like, never mix. But then it's like in the same breath, they exotify mixed race people, which is so hilarious. So it's like, oh, well, make up your mind. Do you want to never mix, or do you want to keep tokenizing and exotifying mixed race individuals? So it's like some people are stupid, and this is why I just do not listen to certain people. But I do definitely want to say this. So when it comes to the mixed race identity, you know, it's its own valid and multifaceted experience. And it comes with unique struggles that deserve to be acknowledged, honestly. And honestly, a lot of people don't like to acknowledge it because they feel like, you know, it's more simpler to just be like, oh, yeah, you're Black, or you're white, or you're Arab, or you're Asian, blah, 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 blah. Because it's just easier for people. It's easier for stupid people, right? So you're always going to have ignorant bastards that will still try to push mixed race people and only Blackness. There's no such thing as, mixed race people looking Black for real, right? Yes, that's a tactic that's normalized, that's used against mixed race people when it comes to specific features, but that doesn't mean that it's based off of the truth, right? Because honestly, I do be talking shit to niggas, but I do understand the truth at the same time. So it's like, sometimes I'll talk shit to niggas anyway. But yeah, no, when mixed race people are called, oh, you just look Black, that's not based on truth. Because I don't see no just Black people with the same skull as mixed race people. That's just not based on science or anthropology alone. So the acknowledgement and the emotional labor that they carry across culture lines is insane. So I feel like people need to stop using blanket Blackness or fucking blanket whiteness as a tool to erase or invalidate mixed race individuals. They're having a different experience than you. Nobody cares that you think that everybody is mixed, because everybody is not fucking mixed, because there wouldn't be no entire concept of monoracial if that were the fucking case. And half of you niggas aren't even MGM, so stop saying that you're 10% or more European, because you're fucking not. Because I feel like that also needs to be said. Niggas be trying to interlope. I'm sorry. I'm sick of all these niggas at the same time. I don't give a fuck. Like, some of you niggas need to stop acting like you don't understand what niggas mean when they say mix, right? And that's also something that grinds my gears. Let me say this, right? Because there are some niggas that will really sit here and look you dead in your eye, and they'll be like, what does mix look like? And then I'll just respond to their stupidity. I'll be like, what does white look like? What does Black look like? What does Asian look like? Because it's like, what do you mean? Are you stupid? Or are there screws loose or something? Because it's like, when you think of somebody that's mixed race, the first thing that comes to mind is somebody with a level of ambiguity where it's like you could tell that they're, in between something, because they look like a blend of different cultures or different people. They don't look like just one thing. So that's what mix looks like, you fucking dumbass. And then they'll be like, well, Africa is diverse, so everyone in Africa can have this feature, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, okay, their main talking point is East Africans. East Africans are fighting for their lives. The Horn of Africa is fighting for their life. Anytime somebody is like, you look mixed race, and they're like, no, I'm not mixed race. They're like, yes, admixture. It has to be this. It has to be that. So it's like, even the examples that you use, they get accused of being mixed race. And then their next talking point is, oh, well, that's just based on ignorance. Yeah, it's based on ignorance, but it's also based on truths, right? Two things can be right at the same time. It literally can. The truth is multifaceted. Two things can literally be true at the same time. And that's why you see East Africans, or specifically, people that are from the Horn of Africa, they get mad. They're like, no, I'm not mixed race. But a lot of them get confused for people that are Dominican. Dominicans, it's insane. So mixed race has a look. People know what a mixed race person looks like. They have a specific phenotype. And I actually went into detail when I made this, the skull shaped video, and it showed that a lot of mixed race people have the dolichocephalic skull shape. The dolichocephalic skull shape is the same skull shape that Northern Europeans have, and also fucking East Africans have. So exactly, like, shut the fuck up. I know what I'm talking about. A lot of niggas, I'm not gonna lie, they just want to cope. They want to cope. And I'm never gonna allow niggas to cope. You can get mad at the truth, but the truth isn't gonna change because you feel some type of way about it. But if you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. Later.